Imagine working 80-hour weeks, building a company from the absolute ground up, hitting the top 10% of earners in London, and feeling completely fine. You are a young, normal weight, highly successful 31-year-old man. And then, well, your doctor drops a bombshell. You have a severe metabolic disease that is almost universally linked to obesity.
Right, but you aren't obese.
Exactly. And that is the medical mystery we are unpacking for you today. Welcome to this deep dive.
We are pulling our insights for this entirely from Chapter 18, which is titled Into the Blood, from Dr. Daniel Wallerstorfer's book, Unlock Your Genes for Precision Health. The story of this young entrepreneur, Mark Thompson, serves as, a perfect lens to examine a profound shift in modern medicine.
Yeah, the mission today is to show you how your DNA does far more than just influence your risk for getting a disease.
Well,
We are looking at how your genetic code actually acts as a highly specific, personalized instruction manual for exactly how to treat it. And Mark's case is fascinating because it breaks all the conventional rules. The biggest risk factor for type 2 diabetes is obesity. Mark was close to a normal weight, so without that physical trigger, we have to look deeper.
his doctors were certainly puzzled. When a patient develops a metabolic disease but completely lacks the typical physical profile, geneticists immediately start looking at the DNA. They assumed there had to be an invisible mechanism at play. But before we get to the genes, we need to understand the biological reality Mark was facing. The book refers to this as the sweet poison concept.
Let's break that concept down for the listener, because on the surface, it sounds like a contradiction. Glucose, which is blood sugar, is literally essential for human life. It circulates in your blood and provides the fastest, most vital energy source to your cells. You cannot survive without it.
The problem isn't the presence of glucose, it is the concentration. Biology is all about delicate balances, and the dose makes the poison. When you have chronically high levels of glucose circulating in the blood, the effects on the human body are systemic and, devastating.
If you picture your cardiovascular system like the plumbing in a house, glucose is like water essential for the plumbing to work. But if the concentration is too high, it floods and ruins the entire foundation. It actively damages blood vessels, nerves, eyes, and kidneys.
Yeah, that flooding analogy is highly accurate. Those tiny, fragile microvessels in the eyes and kidneys sustain heavy damage, and the high glucose slows down your body's natural healing processes too.
And it feeds invading bacteria.
Exactly. Because glucose is such a potent, easily accessible energy source, having massive amounts of it floating freely in your bloodstream is like throwing a buffet for invading bacteria.
So what does this all mean? The biggest risk factor for type 2 diabetes is obesity. Yet Mark was close to a normal weight. How does this happen?
Well, when a patient doesn't fit the typical physical profile, geneticists look at the DNA. His weight wasn't the trigger, so we have to unpack the actual biological mechanism inside his cells.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to walk through the specific genes outlined in the source material, because we are not just talking about one single diabetes gene, are we?
No, not at all. We are looking at a complex web of genetic instructions. The source outlines several specific genes involved in blood sugar regulation. First, there's the TCF7L2 gene.
TCF7L2.
Got it.
What does that one do?
It activates metabolism genes. And if you have a defect in this master switch, your risk of diabetes jumps up dramatically. It increases up to 2.7-fold.
Wow, 2.7-fold. That is a huge jump.
It is. Then we have HIGD1C, which influences cell stress and pancreas function. A defect there equals a 1.94-fold risk.
It's almost double the risk just from that cell stress gene.
Right. Next is HHEX, which is critical for pancreas development. A defect in HHEX gives you a 1.44-fold risk.
It's just adding up. What about the immune system? Because inflammation is always a big factor.
Exactly. Which brings us to the IL-6 and IL-10 genes. These control your immune and inflammatory response. A defect in IL-6 means a 1.51-fold risk, and a defect in IL-10 is a 1.99-fold risk.
Practically doubling the risk again.
Yes. And we can't forget about how the body handles fat. The PPARG gene regulates fat cell development and how those cells use insulin. A defect there carries a 1.38-fold risk. Plus, there is the FTO gene, which is obesity-related. A defect in FTO gives a 1.68-fold risk.
Okay, that is a massive list of genetic tripwires.
One more, the KCNJ11 gene. This one directly influences insulin release from the pancreas. A defect there is a 1.65-fold risk.
So when they looked at Mark's specific DNA profile, how many of these defects did he actually have?
Mark had defects in 5 of those 8 genes.
Wait, 5 out of 8?
5 of the 8. And it didn't stop there. He also had defects in his VDR gene, which means his body requires higher vitamin D3. And on top of all that, he had defective protection genes against oxidative stress.
Okay, but I have to push back on this for a second. If someone listening has, say, just one of these defects, does having just one defect guarantee they're going to get diabetes?
No, definitely not. And that's a crucial point. Each gene defect only causes a modest risk on its own.
So it isn't an on and off switch.
Yeah, right. It is the accumulation of many gene defects, like Mark inheriting 5 out of 8, that really adds up to a relevant disease risk. The genetic defects loaded the gun, and his high-stress, sleep-deprived lifestyle pulled the trigger.
Okay, so we have established that Mark's genes cause the disease. But how do those same genes impact standard medical treatments? Because you would think once he was diagnosed, they could just give him a pill and fix it.
What's fascinating here is how profound it is that the very genes that trigger a disease can actively sabotage the standard medications used to treat it.
Sabotage the medication, like the DNA physically stops the drug from working.
Exactly. Let's look at the KCNJ11 gene we mentioned earlier. A defect in that gene actually reduces the efficiency of metformin, which is an incredibly common diabetes drug.
So the frontline drug is just inherently less effective for him.
Yes. And the NS1AP gene provides an even wilder example. With a functional version of this gene, the standard drug glibenclamide works better, while alternatives like tolbutamide and glamparide are less effective.
Okay, so glibenclamide is the winner there.
Right, for a normal gene. But a defective version completely reverses this. It makes glibenclamide less effective and the alternatives more effective.
That is wild. Genetics is a GPS for doctors, and without checking the genes, doctors are prescribing blind. They're totally unaware that a patient's genetic roadblocks might make a specific drug totally useless.
That is the perfect analogy. And for Mark, the biggest roadblock was his TCF7L2 defect. Carriers of this defect progress much faster to the final stage of treatment.
Which is insulin injections.
Right. And sure enough, at age 45, Mark's disease progressed to a crisis point. His doctor suggested insulin.
But insulin injections progressively wear out the pancreas over time, don't they?
They do. You are basically outsourcing the pancreas's job, so the organ downregulates. Because of that, Mark flat out refused the insulin and sought an alternative.
Since traditional medications were steering him toward a treatment he refused to accept, he had to find a workaround using nutrients.
Yes, he turned to specialized precision health. Science shows incredible protective effects from a very specific list of nutrients. We're talking about chromium, L-carnitine, coenzyme Q10, alpha-lipoic acid, vitamin C, B1, B3 and D, biotin, NAC, magnesium, and zinc.
That is quite the cocktail. But if I just go to the pharmacy and buy all those as pills, is that going to work?
No, and that is the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
Oral supplements are severely hampered by absorption limit.
Right, the digestive system.
Exactly. Liver interference, your lifestyle, smoking, alcohol, and general poor health all degrade how much of a swallowed pill actually makes it into your bloodstream. The liver essentially filters it out before it can do any good.
So how do you bypass the liver?
Intravenous, or IV therapy. It bypasses the liver and intestines completely. It goes straight through the heart and lungs to distribute throughout the body at the exact required blood level.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. IVs have been common in hospitals for over 100 years. Why is an IV suddenly a cutting-edge solution for Mark?
It is a critical difference. It wasn't just some random vitamin drip you might get for hydration. Specialized clinics created a genetically personalized precision nutrient recipe based strictly on Mark's DNA profile.
So they looked at his exact genetic flaw.
Exactly. Remember his VDR gene defect? They factored that in. They combined his genetic data, his blood work, and his medical history to calculate the exact molecular payload his body was missing.
Okay, so did this highly personalized genetic approach actually work?
It did. Mark received 6 monthly precision IV therapies.
Just 6?
Yes, 6 monthly sessions. And the treatment was a resounding success. He reported feeling younger and healthier than he had in years.
And I'm guessing they tracked the actual metrics, right? Not just how he felt.
Of course. His HbA1c fasting glucose and his cholesterol-related markers showed significant improvement in both metabolic and cardiovascular health.
Wow. So he avoided the insulin.
He successfully avoided insulin therapy completely. Today, he takes personalized supplements, he changed his lifestyle, nutrition, and exercise specifically based on his DNA, and he takes regular personalized IV therapies.
That is just incredible to hear. It's so tangible and measurable. The results really emphasize that this Precision approach isn't just theory anymore, it is a reality, and it's no longer just for a select few.
No, it is actively changing lives by looking at the specific biological reality of the individual.
To summarize today's deep dive analyzing, Mark's DNA literally removed all the guesswork from his treatment. By looking at his genes, doctors didn't have to guess which drugs would fail or which nutrients he needed. The instructions were already printed in his cells.
Right, they just had to read them.
Which leaves us with a broader question to mull over as we sign off. If our DNA acts as a precise instruction manual for exactly which treatments will or won't work in our bodies, how much of standard trial-and-error medicine is already obsolete without us even realizing it? Think about that for a bit. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next deep dive.